Donald Trump's temporary attorney generals who are just there to do as much damage as humanly possible to the Department of Justice's reputation and to our rule of law before they go back out or back below that rock they crawled out from under. And I tie together here, Alina Habba and Lindsay Halligan are both in the news for all the wrong reasons once again. Alina Habba had a terrible day at the Third Circuit Court of Appeals. If I were a betting man, I would say they're going to rule 2-1, 3-0 that she was illegally appointed as a prosecutor and bounce her as the New Jersey U.S. attorney. Lindsay Halligan decided to write a series of text messages to a reporter, and she forgot to say, it's off the record. I interviewed that reporter, Anna Bauer. I cover all of the problems of on thin ice prosecutors who don't know what they're doing and the ramifications of it on the Intersection podcast. And here's a clip. And then that brings us to Alina Habba. It must. Alina Habba was also illegally appointed to be the U.S. Attorney of New Jersey. And a criminal defense team representing a drug dealer filed a motion several months ago to get Alina Habba disqualified and anything she touched to be declared void, including their indictment. It actually got to a judge that was assigned outside of New Jersey, same problem as before, and the Middle District of Pennsylvania federal judge ruled against Alina Habba, goes up to the Third Circuit Court of Appeals, sits in Philadelphia over things involving New Jersey and other states. And in that one, we had a 3-judge panel, 2 Bush and 1 Obama. And the Bush senior status judges took over, and they grilled the crap out of Mr. Whitaker representing the Department of Justice. Now, Alina Habba lied to the American people afterwards, and she said she was defending at an oral argument. She didn't say a word, just like Lindsay Halligan never says a word in court. Alina Habba, last time I ever saw her operate was at the Second Circuit Court of Appeals about E. Jean Carroll, and that went terribly. She got her head handed to her. She got told that she didn't properly raise the immunity issue in the sex abuse case and sit down. Let me play you a clip of the judge at oral argument, which we had up on Legal AF as a live recording that you can get right now. Let's play the clip so people can see we're bringing the receipts here on the Intersection.
The first assistant is absolutely a political appointee. And I think that is an extremely odd result.
But there's there's language in 3345 that would reference experience for the person. 90 days within the prior 365 days. So it's hard for me to see when I look at the total section itself, because it's not the best and most clearest statute that I've ever read. I'll grant you that there's some confusion in it, but it does say to me that Congress had a very specific intent. They wanted an experienced person to be that acting officer.
Now, my prediction is the Third Circuit Court of Appeals, at least 2-1, if not 3-0, is going to find that Alina Habba and her masters, her bosses, her leaders there, her client, illegally appointed her too. Because as Judge Smith outlined, let me go over all the different ways you violated the appointments clause and the confirmation clause for the Senate. Okay, you pulled her nomination. And then you made her the number 2. You fired the person that the court put in. And then we didn't extend her 120-day term after it expired. So you try to do end run around, bring her up through the deputy attorney general, the deputy U.S. attorney position, and then made her a special attorney, all because we wouldn't let you do it under the statute. Now, a major issue that has come up in the disqualification and at the Third Circuit is how that statute works. And wouldn't you know it, Sam Alito, now on the U.S. Supreme Court, when he was a young lawyer in the White House, the Office of Legal Counsel for Reagan, he said, in support of what Comey has written, in support of the motion against Alina Habba, that you only get one pick, and you don't get 2 if you're the Attorney General. And then it goes to the federal judges of that district to vote for the person that they want. Which brings us to Lindsay Halligan. Nothing says I am lonely. I don't have friends. I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm going to reach out to a lawyer, reach out to a reporter without telling them that it was off the record, and start texting with them, or on a Signal app, which I think is disappearing, start texting them about confidential information about the Letitia James prosecution. It was so weird that Anna Bauer, who's going to be a regular on Legal AF, I'm sure, hopefully she'll come back and brief, was the reporter for Lawfare, who Lindsay Halligan knew, and starts to write her right after she's triggered by a couple of social media posts by Anna, in which she's reporting on the New York Times disclosing information that undermines the indictment against Letitia James. That a grandniece for Letitia James testified to a grand jury that she was living in this $118,000 modest clapboard house in Virginia, that sometimes Letitia James visited it, and that she never paid rent. So how did she violate some covenant with her bank that's basically out of business, by the way? They already sold the loan to another entity. How did they commit fraud when they said they were going to use it as a second home, which she's using it as a second home, and she's not going to rent it out? She's not renting it out. She's letting people live there, which she's allowed to do and expressly allowed to do over a year. Well, Lindsay Halligan didn't like that. So she uses the Signal app. Remember that relatively unsecure platform with disappearing messages that Mike Waltz, the national security advisor at the time, now I think he's the ambassador to Iceland, I'm not making it up, he accidentally added Jeffrey Goldberg, from the reporter, editor-in-chief of The Atlantic magazine, to a chain including J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio, Stephen Miller, and Tulsi Gabbard, to start talking about bombing the Houthis in Yemen to open up the trade port, the trade shipping lanes. Remember that? It was all the scandal. And they were using Signal with the disappearing messages. Well, she uses it again. Didn't learn her lesson. So she reaches out. And that's the article that Anna Bauer writes, which is the title of her piece, which is, "Hi, Anna, this is Lindsay." And then a series of text messages. Well, let me let Anna put it in her own words with a great interview I just did of her that's up on Midas Touch today. Let's play the clip.
The top prosecutor there, and then one day, out of the blue, I get a message from her, or someone purporting to be her, which I didn't believe at first. You know, I thought it was a troll. And it turns out it really was her, because she was able to tell me where we first met, who she was with, and then we confirmed that it was her by obtaining her phone number, which connected to the discussion, and the Justice Department eventually confirmed it.
So to be clear, when you woke up that day to her text message, you're not planning to write an article about Lindsay Halligan particularly, and some of her prosecutorial work on Letitia James. So when she later says, "I didn't know there was a story," there wasn't a story. The story is her communicating with you, right?
Right. And I want to be very clear here, Michael, because there's a lot of context here about how relationships between reporters and prosecutors work. So a few things that people who maybe aren't familiar with that context, and just how unusual this is and why this is even a story, I think it's important to keep these things in mind. So one is that it is normal for prosecutors and journalists to speak to each other. It's the kind of thing that's how reporting happens, so that's not strange, but there are a few things that are really abnormal here. One is that it's the sitting United States attorney, who's one of the most high profile prosecutors in the country, who's already under immense scrutiny because of the circumstances in which she was put into this job and the cases that she is pursuing against Letitia James and James Comey. The other is that she is reaching out to me, who, it seemed that she was reaching out to me about these tweets I wrote that was summarizing. But finally, nothing, at no point did she say that we were off the record. And for people who don't know what that means, everyone who is a public figure knows very well that when you engage with the media, you can set at the beginning the basis on which you wish to speak. One way that you can do it is say, hey, I'd like to go off the record. And there has to be an agreement with the reporter that that is the basis on which you speak. And then they can't publish anything, that you speak about in that off the record conversation. But if there's no agreement at the outset, the assumption is that you are speaking on the record, and that everything that you say is fair game.
And no backseat, and no backsies.
And there's no takesy-backsies. It doesn't work where you can retrospectively, as a source, say to a reporter, oh, hey,
So I don't know where to start. You've got an incompetent. Well, what did Donald Trump expect? He had to expect this. She's inexperienced. She's never been a prosecutor. She's never really been in federal court. She was a fender bender lawyer in Florida, 7 or 8 years out. Never been a federal law clerk. I'm telling you, the person that empties the waste paper basket in the courthouse, in the courtroom, and in her own office in the Eastern District of Virginia, once proud prosecutor's office, knows more than she does. So of course she violated policy. She didn't call the public affairs office for the Department of Justice. She didn't clear communicating. And then she panicked when Bowers wrote to the Department of Justice saying, I got a long text message chain about Letitia James's prosecution from Lindsay Halligan, who I confirmed was Lindsay Halligan, because I asked her for the secret password. Where did we meet and who were you with? And she wrote back, the person Lindsay Halligan wrote back, I met you at the Breakers Hotel with Jim Trusty, the lawyer. Bingo, we're in. And the Department of Justice said, you're just doing tattletale reporting. Tattletale reporting? And then Lindsay Halligan says, everything I just told you 9 days ago, that backsies, that's all off the record. That's not how that works, Lindsay. You know that. You should know that now. And I didn't know you were writing a story. She wasn't writing, for God's sake, she wasn't writing a story, Anna Bauer. She was on the recipient end of your Signal chat. That is the story. And the disappearing messages, I guess you've never heard of screen grabs. It's just, you gotta laugh at some point. Welcome back. I sit at the intersection of law and politics. I have right here on the Midas Touch Network and Legal AF for the last 5 years. I curate the Legal AF YouTube channel. Take a moment, hit the free subscribe button there. 10 new videos every day. No outside investors. You're it. We're it. And you can help defend us against the attacks of the Trump administration, against Midas Touch and Legal AF. Come over to Legal AF Substack. That's the way to really support us. Substack for $6.77 a month. I will overwhelm you with amazing content at the intersection of law and politics. So until my next report, I'm Michael Popok. Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.